Okay, we are now going to look at Genesis chapter 1, verses 3 through chapter 2, verse 3. So this is a bigger chunk, and it's going to be important for us to really get a picture of what God is actually doing in the creation story. Because it's not just this nice little story so you can put up, some beautiful decorations in your newborn's room, but it actually serves in a really important role in establishing both the authority of God for the people of Israel, but it also is going to establish for the Israelites what their actual purpose is in the world, which then also means is if you and I want to understand our purpose in the world, we're going to have to begin to really grasp what God is doing here, because as his image bearers, we are going to reflect and do the very things that God does, but obviously in a very limited fashion. So when we look at Genesis chapter 1, verses 3, all the way through chapter 2, verse 3, we're going to see that God established the pattern for how man and the woman were to live in the world as God's image bearers. And we cannot miss that. God is establishing the pattern of how the man and the woman, that would be Adam and Eve, which would be representatives of the nation of Israel, which also would be our representatives. And therefore, we could say not only for Adam and Eve, not only for the nation of Israel, but also for us, how we're to live in the world as God's image bearers. So, what I want us to see, and we're not going to read all the verses here, but I want you to see that what God is doing through Moses is establishing a very clear pattern. On day one, it says that God created light, right? And he says it was good. Remember, because in Genesis 1 2, we said there was darkness over the world and the Spirit of God was hovering. And now the Spirit of God is going to begin to introduce these various elements. And so on day one, we have light. And God's going to take that chaos and he's going to bring divine order. And so the first step in that is this idea of bringing light. Then on day two, he is going to, and I want you to, again, just keep thinking in your mind this world, and we'll just watch it morph over these 6 days. On day two, he's going to create the sea and the skies. And the way it says it in the Bible is that the waters above and the waters below. The waters above are the atmosphere, right? And the waters below is going to be a world that's covered with water, and therefore you have the sea and the skies. He's giving us this visual picture of it. And then on day three, he's going to create the land and the plants. He's beginning to continue to give it form, right? And so day 1, 2, and 3, what God is doing, is he is giving form to this formless world, to this world that was formless and void. And then what he's going to do on days 4 through 6 is he is going to fill the form that he just created. Now, what's very interesting is that day 1 and day 4 are parallel, day 2 and day 5 are, and day 3 and day 6 are. And so in day 1, he created the light that was giving it form. And then he's going to fill that form. How? In day 4, with the sun, the moon, and the stars. And so he's going to begin to put those into the sky so that the light has form, and that he is filling the whole earth with the sun, moon, and the stars. Then on day 2, we said that we had the waters above and the waters below. And then we recognize that there's an atmosphere and we've got these waters, and that God is then on day 5 going to fill that. And he's going to do that with fish in the waters below and with birds in the waters above. And then on the next day, on day 3, or on day 6, he's going to parallel that with day 3. On day 3, he gave it form by creating land and plants. And then he's going to fill that land and establish with those plants. He's going to put animals and humans in there to fill this world that he is creating. And then when you finish these first 6 days of creation, it says that God rested, meaning that he looked at what he had created and he was satisfied. It does not mean that he was tired. An infinite God who has all power never gets tired, nor does he slumber or sleep. But he simply looked at what he had created. He knew why he had created it. And he very clearly said that this is exactly what I want. He was satisfied. And so what I want us to see here is that what God has done is he has established, he's moved us from Genesis 1, 2 to now giving this formless world form. He does that on days 1 through 3. And then he takes that form and he fills it. And that's on days 4 through 6. And this is going to establish for man and woman as the image of God, what their role is in the world. But then by extension, it's going to help the nation of Israel to understand that they are to push the boundaries and to establish form in the world, and that they are also to fill that world in a way that is going to allow them to do the form. So we'll get into that in the next video. So I hope this has been helpful. And this has taken us from Genesis chapter 1, verse 3 through Genesis 2, 3. Thank you.